Hey everybody, what's going on? This is Sam from Historic Travels and welcome to another video. And as always, before we get started today, I'd just like to take a quick moment to welcome all my new subscribers and then thank everybody who's been leaving me comments and messages down below. Thank you guys so much, I really appreciate it. And if you would like to take a couple extra steps to help support the channel a little bit more, there's a merch store and a Patreon for this channel in the links below. Thank you guys so much for all your support. Okay guys, so I have a bit of a different topic for you guys today. I'm sure many of you already know that there were a good number of animals on board the RMS Titanic during the ship's maiden voyage. These animals mostly consisted of dogs and cats that belonged to the Titanic's passengers, and these animals were cared for by the Titanic's crew as the ship continued its maiden voyage across the Atlantic. Although, while I was researching that, I did find one thing that did surprise me. There were a good number of birds on board the Titanic during its maiden voyage. I'm not sure why that caught me by surprise, but it did. Anyway, for this video, I'm here to talk about one animal in particular. More specifically, it's the Titanic's mascot. Yes, you heard me right. The Titanic unofficially had a mascot. The mascot's name was Jenny, and she was a cat that lived on board the Titanic. Now, the story of Jenny is an interesting one, but the thing about it is, the story of Jenny has kind of passed into legend a little bit. There are some definite facts that we do know about Jenny, but there's also some details about this story that we don't know, and it's passed over from factual into urban legend. So I did my best to try to sort through all the information and figure out what was true and what may be true, and I will be sure to mention that in this video. Alright guys, well hey, without any further ado, let's tell the story of the Titanic's mascot, Jenny the cat.
Now, the earliest records that I could find of Jenny says that she lived on board the Olympic for an undisclosed amount of time. And it also seems like Jenny was given a fair amount of freedom on board the ship because she helped deal with the ship's rodent problem. Mice and rats were a real big problem on ships during this time period. Then, after the Olympic threw a propeller blade and had to go back to Belfast for repairs, the Olympic sister ship, Titanic, was nearing completion and was getting ready to go out on its maiden voyage. It seems like at this time period, Jenny was then transferred from the Olympic over to the Titanic.
Now, it appears it didn't take Jenny very long to adapt to her new home on board the RMS Titanic. She was reported to be running around the ship, exploring, and just doing things that a cat does in her new environment. And it really doesn't surprise me that much that it wouldn't take Jenny very long to adapt to her new home, because the Titanic was nearly identical to the ship at which she had been living on up until now, the Olympic. So, honestly, I'm not surprised Jenny quickly adapted. Now, as far as where she liked to sleep on board the Titanic, it appears she liked to sleep in or around the ship's galley. And this makes sense because this would be an easy place for a cat to get food. And all the members of the Titanic's crew really did like Jenny. Now, Jenny was particularly fond of one crew member in particular, a stoker by the name of Joseph Mulholland. I hope I said that right. But the two were always seen playing together, and Joseph was always giving Jenny attention, praising her, and Jenny really did seem to like Joseph. The two had a pretty strong bond. And this bond was noticed by a stewardess who would later board the Titanic by the name of Violet Jessop. You may remember her as the woman who survived the Olympic's collision with the Hawk, the sinking of the Titanic, and she would later survive the sinking of the Britannic. The story of Violet Jessop is definitely an interesting one, and if you would like to learn more about her and her role in all these White Star Line ship disasters, I did make a video about her a while back, so if you would like to watch it, I will post a link to that video in the description below. And I do encourage you guys to go and watch that video because her role in all this is definitely interesting to say the least. Now, getting back to Jenny for a second. Now, it appears that while the Titanic was still in Belfast, Jenny became pregnant with a bunch of kittens. And she was still pregnant with these kittens at the time the Titanic departed Belfast and headed to Southampton for her maiden voyage. Now, when the Titanic arrived in Southampton, the ship was there for a total of 5 days. And during that time, Jenny did give birth to all these kittens on board the Titanic. Now, this is where the story of Jenny begins to fluctuate a bit. There's two accounts as to what happened to her after she gave birth to these kittens. I will tell you both accounts, but then I'm going to tell you which of the two accounts that I personally believe to be true.
Now, according to one report, it states that Jenny, along with her kittens, were all still on board the RMS Titanic when she sank into the Atlantic Ocean on April 15, 1912, and they all perished in the sinking. However, there's another report out there that says that several people on board the Titanic while the ship was still in Southampton saw Jenny taking each of her kittens one by one off the Titanic. And then Jenny herself departed the Titanic with her last kitten just before the Titanic departed Southampton on April 10, 1912. And there's also another story out there that says that Joseph Mulholland witnessed Jenny leaving the Titanic with her kittens, and he took it as a bad sign. So he himself decided to leave the Titanic along with the cat.
So now that raises the big question. Which of these two stories is the truth? Did Jenny and her kittens die when the Titanic went down on April 15, 1912? Or did Jenny and her kittens get off the ship while the Titanic was in Southampton and survive the disaster? Well, logically, it seems more probable that Jenny and her kittens remained on the Titanic and died when the ship sank. However, I tend to believe more that Jenny and her kittens did get off the ship before the Titanic left Southampton. And this is mostly because of Joseph Mulholland's testimony. I mean, he said plain as day that he saw the Titanic's cat get off the ship before it left Southampton, and this is why he decided to get off the ship himself. I mean, who makes up a story like that? That's a pretty crazy story to make up for why you decided to leave a ship. So, to me, that story is so ridiculous that I tend to believe that this was his reasoning for why he didn't want to sail with the Titanic for its maiden voyage. So, in my opinion, I believe that Jenny and her kittens successfully made it off the Titanic before the ship departed Southampton on its maiden voyage. Alright everybody, that's it for this video. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it and found it interesting. And let me know what you guys think. Do you guys think Jenny and her kittens survived the sinking of the Titanic? Or do you think they may have still been on board the Titanic when the ship went down? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I'm very curious to read them. Okay everybody, well hey, thank you all so much for being here. Be sure to leave a like, be sure to subscribe, and yeah, keep doing what you guys are doing. You guys are awesome. Alright everybody, well hey, y'all stay safe out there, and I'll see you in the next one. Have a good night everybody.
Special thanks to Patreon Captain level supporter Callum Whaley. Thank you so much for all the support, man.